Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about a breakout player at each position for fantasy football in 2021. We're going to be talking about one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, and one tight end in this video that I feel like are going to have a breakout season for fantasy football in 2021. Now, everyone kind of categorizes a breakout season in different ways. Some people will say a breakout season for a wide receiver, for a running back is over 1,000 yards. Other people will categorize it differently. Now, I've seen lists where people talk about how guys like CeeDee Lamb are going to have breakout seasons. Now, in my opinion, CeeDee Lamb already broke out last season, so he will not be included in this video, but obviously that is basically a no-brainer at the wide receiver position because of Dak Prescott being healthy this season. Hopefully, that would make CeeDee Lamb have the potential to even get a very high number of receiving yards, touchdowns, all of those things that are great for fantasy football. So if you guys do end up enjoying this video at any point, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, because not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship. So without further ado, let's get into it. We begin at the quarterback position with one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. That is quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, Joey B. Smokin' Joe Burrow, formerly of the LSU Tigers. Now, last year, Joe Burrow started off the season pretty solid, obviously not having the greatest of a rookie season, but was looking like he had the potential to win the Rookie of the Year if he kept things up. But obviously, he ends up getting hurt in Week 11, tearing his ACL, his MCL, his PCL, meniscus tears, all types of bad things happened to his knee, so he had to get knee reconstruction surgery, which takes around 8 to 9 months. Luckily, Joe Burrow didn't get hurt like week 16, week 17 or something, because Joe Burrow should be perfectly good to go for week 1 of the 2021 NFL season. Now, again, I am not some type of a fucking doctor, so I'm not 100% sure that he will be good to go, but based upon what I have been reading, based upon what has been coming out about Joe Burrow, it seems as though he should be good to go for week number 1 of the 2021 season. In 10 games last year, Joey B was quarterback 25 in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues and quarterback 25 in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. From a points per game perspective, Joe Burrow was quarterback 18 in 4-point, tied with Wham Bam Cam Newton, and quarterback number 19 in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues, averaging 17.4 4-point per passing touchdown league points per game and 26-point per passing touchdown league points per game. So Joe Burrow had a pretty alright rookie season, but obviously when you're trying to project what the future is going to be for Joe Burrow, who's coming off the board right now, underdog ADP 96.4, is you're trying to project what's going to happen this season. You can look at last year's numbers, you can see what he did last season, but you don't want to put all of that into your consideration. Say, oh, he finished as quarterback number 19 in points per game, he'll probably finish around that number again. No, he definitely has the upside, in my opinion, to be a top 12 quarterback this season. Obviously, last year, he had some great wide receivers on the team. He has T. Higgins, he has A.J. Green. While A.J. Green wasn't the best, and I'm probably the biggest A.J. Green hater on this earth, he's still a pretty solid wide receiver for Joe Burrow to throw the ball to. He had T. Higgins, A.J. Green, he also had Tyler, Boyd, and this offense was playing just about all right. Now, Joe Burrow is going into his second year. I understand he didn't play a full season last season, but it is good to get that first season under wraps, and now he's going to be looking for that explosive sophomore season. They add in his former collegiate wide receiver, Jamar Chase, out of LSU. They draft him in the first round. They take him over Penei Sewell, who could have protected Joe Burrow. They saw Joe Burrow die, and they said, fuck them kids, bro. Fuck Joe Burrow, basically. I don't care. We're just going to get you the guy that you can throw the ball to, and Joe Burrow, I guess, is okay with that. Now this offense is loaded with weapons. If the offensive line can just be somewhat better so that Joe Burrow actually has time to stand back there. Now with Joe Mixon hopefully potentially having a better season like a lot of people project him to have, Joe Burrow is now in the seat of greatness here. He legitimately has 3 wide receivers that are going to be very good for him as long as the offensive line can block and as long as Joe Mixon is able to move the ball somewhat effectively. This offense should be very good, and a big plus for the Cincinnati Bengals in for Joe Burrow. Not a big plus for the Bengals because the Bengals obviously want to have a good defense, but a big plus for Joe Burrow fantasy-wise is that the offense is going to be trying to throw late in games, which is obviously very positive game script for the quarterback of the team in Joe Burrow. Last year, Joe Burrow put up some pretty solid numbers. Again, nothing super special, but it's hard to put up special numbers when you only play in 10 games on the season. Last year, he threw for 2,688 passing yards, which is 23rd highest at the quarterback position, 13 passing touchdowns, 26th highest at the quarterback position, as well as rushing the ball 37 times for 136 rushing yards and 3 total rushing touchdowns, which is something that not too many people talk about when it comes to Joe Burrow, is that he is very capable of rushing the ball, and a lot of people don't really talk about that at all because that is a plus you're looking for in fantasy football. Sure, Joe Burrow is not going to run out of the pocket, make fucking 6 dudes miss like Lamar Jackson, and run right into the end zone, or make guys miss like Cam Newton had in the past, like Kyler Murray can do. He's not going to do that, but he does definitely have some rushing upside, as he's not completely just a dud that stands there in the pocket. Last season, Joe Burrow was relatively efficient, 78.0% catchable pass rate, ranking 12th highest at the quarterback position. So he was pretty solid last season when looking at the efficiency numbers. Those numbers are provided by playerprofiler.com. Again, they don't pay me anything, but I do get a lot of my numbers from there, and they are very, very good. So if you want to do some research yourself, playerprofiler.com is a great place to do that. So, again, Joe Burrow just has this loaded offense with a bad defense, which is going to bode well for him game script-wise, where he's going to be able to throw the ball a lot late in games. They add Jamar Chase. Hopefully the offensive line is better, and then Joe Burrow magically has the potential to be a top 12 guy because of how much the Bengals are going to be slinging the rock in these games. Obviously, the injury is somewhat scary. I understand that, but I will be in a couple of weeks talking to a legitimate doctor about Joe Burrow, about these NFL players, so you guys have a good idea about how fine Joe Burrow will be going into the 2021 season. Again, based on everything that I have read, he should be good, so don't worry about Joe Burrow, but I do understand that not everyone wants to draft a guy whose knee got blown into next season, so hopefully Joe Burrow is fine, and again, my assumption is that he will be. Next up, we got the running back of this video, and that's going to be of the Los Angeles Rams running back Cam Akers. Going into last season, Cam Akers, if you guys had my draft guide, was one of my guys at the running back position. He was a guy that I was beating the drum for all off season long, currently going as underdog ADP 10.1. Last year, he was like a 3rd, 4th round pick in fantasy football, obviously a 2nd round pick in the real NFL draft out of Florida State. Now, at Florida State, Cam Akers was putting up these crazy numbers, and his offensive line was about as useful as a used condom, a broken condom. He literally was just going balls deep into these defenses, and the offensive line was folding like a table in Buffalo. It was crazy how good he was, even with such a dick cheese offensive line. Now he goes to the NFL with the LA Rams. I understand the LA Rams don't have the greatest offensive line, but it does not seem to matter for Cam Akers because he's done so well with bad offensive lines in the past, and this guy plays pretty well in his rookie season. He played in 13 games with just 3 starts, finishing as running back 45 in PPR, 43.5 PPR, and running back 42 in standard, averaging 7.8 PPR points per game, 7.4 half PPR points per game, and 7 standard points per game, meaning from a points per game perspective, Mr. Akers was running back 53 in PPR, 49.5 PPR, and running back number 44 in standard. But while those numbers won't tell you that Cam Akers had a great season, you have to understand the season that Cam Akers was going into. He's going into a crowded running back room. Darrell Henderson, while he's not the second coming of the greatest running back ever, he is actually a pretty solid NFL running back, so that obviously dampers Cam Akers. And then they had Malcolm Brown, the human fucking wrecking ball that Miley Cyrus rode in that video. that's basically what he was, and he was vulturing touchdowns. So Cam Akers was like the second, the third guy in line to get some touches. So obviously, it was going to take some time for Cam Akers, but eventually, down the stretch of the season, if you look at his numbers from week 12 to 17 compared to the early numbers on in the season, you can see a completely different Cam Akers, and this is not the same offense that Cam Akers will be injected into this season. Obviously, last year with Jared Goff under center, compared to what it should look like with Matthew Stafford under center, you can just project, you can predict that the offense should be better this season, and kind of the same reason why I like Joe Burrow, because the defense is so dick, and that Joe Burrow will be able to throw late in games. It's the complete opposite with the LA Rams. Stafford may have to temper down in the fourth quarter because of how strong Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and this whole LA Rams defense is, that Cam Akers is going to be seeing a lot of rushing opportunity late in games for the LA Rams. So again, back to what I was talking about before, we're to look at the splits, the final 5 games of the season versus the first 6 games of the season that Cam Akers ended up playing in. The final 5 games of the season, Cam Akers was averaging 13.6 half PPR points per game versus 5.05 at the beginning of the season, 14.4 PPR points per game versus 5.3 at the beginning of the season, 12.8 standard points per game versus 4.8 early on in the season. Why is this? It is due to an uptick in targets, 2.2 per game versus 0.5, an uptick in receptions, 1.6 versus 0.5 per game. His receiving touchdowns actually were better early on in the season because he did not score a single receiving touchdown at those final 5 games of the season. His rushing attempts were up from 8.33 to 19 down the stretch of the season. His rushing yards obviously went up as well from 33.5 to 84.8, and his rushing touchdowns went up 0.4 per game versus 0 early on in the season. So you can see that once Cam Akers was given the opportunity later on in the season, once he kind of beat down Darrell Henderson and stole that job, then he truly was the guy in this offense, even if it wasn't the high-powered offense you would dream that Sean McVay could cultivate in LA. Now, Sean McVay has done nothing but got down on his knees and gave Cam Akers the Gawk Gawk 9000. He's talking about how Cam Akers is the guy in this offense, which should be obvious to most, but now reassured by head coach Sean McVay. So Cam Akers' stats last season were pretty solid. Again, not given an overwhelming amount of opportunity, 27th highest carry total at the running back position in the NFL with 145, 625 rushing yards, ranking 31st at the wide receiver position, or at the running back position, I should say, and 3 total touchdowns, as well as tacking on 14 targets for 11 receptions, 123 receiving yards, again, 3 total touchdowns. So Cam Akers didn't have this extra special rookie season, but it's pretty obvious that you can predict and project that with an offense being this good, with a defense being this good, that Cam Akers is going to be very, very solid this season with less competition around him. Obviously, Malcolm Brown is gone, and Darrell Henderson has been demoted. So Cam Akers is in the driver's seat now to really have an excellent season this year for the LA Rams, and he is my running back breakout player at the running back position. Obviously, I mean, that was kind of redundant saying running back twice, but if you guys have ended up enjoying through the breakdown of Joe Burrow and Cam Akers, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, because not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football season. If you're already subscribed, please make sure to hit that like button, because it helps boost this video in the algorithm so that more people just like you can watch my videos. It really helps me out a ton. I would greatly appreciate it, and you hitting that subscribe button will help you out a lot as well, because again, I post videos every single day trying to help you guys win your fantasy football leagues. Next up, we got a wide receiver that is also going to be a sophomore. 3 sophomores in this video. Don't worry about it though, because the tight end is definitely a lot older than a sophomore in the NFL. Jerry Jeudy's current underdog ADP is 75.2, and I just spoiled it, but Jerry Jeudy is going to be my wide receiver breakout player of the year. Now again, the easy pick would have been CeeDee Lamb, because technically he didn't have a breakout year, didn't have all those numbers, but it's so clear that it would be stupid to even talk about, at least in my opinion. Last year, Jerry Jeudy definitely struggled, but it wasn't because of injury. He played in all 16 games last season and still finished as wide receiver 45 PPR, 44.5 PPR, and wide receiver number 43 in standard, averaging 9.8 PPR points per game, 8.2 half PPR points per game and 6.6 standard points per game, meaning from a points per game perspective, this guy was dog shit. Wide receiver 59 in PPR, 57 in half PPR, and wide receiver 57 in standard. Now, going into the 2020 NFL draft, I personally believed, and a lot of people believed, that Jerry Jeudy would be the first wide receiver off the board, and that he was the best wide receiver in this class coming out of Alabama. And obviously, he didn't put up these huge numbers. Now, what was going up against Jerry Jeudy last year that, in my opinion, made him struggle was both quarterback play as well as the fact that Courtland Sutton was hurt, because Jerry Jeudy didn't get to start off his NFL career as the wide receiver too, like a guy like Justin Jefferson did, like a guy like CeeDee Lamb did. He was injected directly into this offense as the wide receiver one as soon as Courtland Sutton ended up getting hurt. Looking at projecting last season, Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy were going to be a feared wide receiver duo, but once you lose the main guy in Courtland Sutton, once you lose a guy who broke out in 2019, Jerry Jeudy was basically left on an island with these other bum wide receivers, so all you really had to do was cover Jerry Jeudy. And Jerry Jeudy struggled immensely because there were so many games where horsecock Drew Lock just played bad, and that obviously when a quarterback plays bad, then a wide receiver is going to play the greatest. Jerry Jeudy also struggled last season, definitely with drops, because he was getting the ball in his hands and he's just dropping it left and right. He had 8 total drops last season, which is about a drop every other game, ranking 7th at the wide receiver position. So he was dropping balls heavily, which is something that he never really struggled with at the collegiate level in Alabama. So obviously Drew Lock is still going to be there. The difference between horsecock Drew Lock being the quarterback and Teddy Two Gloves being the quarterback of the Denver Broncos, to me, means absolutely nothing. I would actually prefer it to be Drew Lock, because I think Drew Lock may be able to take that next step potentially this year in his 3rd year in the NFL, or maybe he's just more risky, right? He'll actually try to make these deep ball throws to Jerry Jeudy, a guy who will catch that. He will be able to take risks in the game and feed the ball to a guy like Jerry Jeudy, who can catch the ball in traffic, a guy that makes catches all over the field. But if you have Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, he just checks it down. He's not looking to make a risky play. He's just a safe quarterback. He's super safe. He's like wearing a condom and then taking a plan B after it. He's super safe. But, you know, that's not what wins in the NFL, really, a super-duper safe quarterback. Drew Lock, I'm not sure if he's really a NFL winning quarterback, but to me, I would rather take the shot if I'm the Denver Broncos on Drew Lock. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. Again, you never really know with this Rodgers situation, but Jerry Jeudy is just a guy that was so talented at the at the collegiate level that you would just think that things would get better in 2021. He had 113 targets last year, 21st most at the wide receiver position, but he only had 52 receptions, 51st best at the wide receiver position. Again, it was a mix of Lock playing like complete and utter shit, and Jeudy kind of just messing up. 856 receiving yards, 30th most at wide receiver, and 3 total touchdowns last season, 65th highest at the wide receiver position. So basically, the play on Jerry Jeudy this season is just believing in the talent that you saw at Alabama, as well as believing that he is going to see a bunch of targets, and now he will be the wide receiver 2 on the team, not drawing the best coverage, because Courtland Sutton is the alpha in this Denver Broncos offense. If you believe anything in what we saw out of Jerry Jeudy at college, it should be a no-brainer to take him where he's going right now, outside of the top 32 at the wide receiver position, because he definitely has immense upside going into the season. Final player, not going to be a sophomore player. It is going to be Dallas Goedert, tight end of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, for some reason, the Philadelphia Eagles have not elected to trade Zach Ertz yet. Dallas Goedert's current ADP is 85.1. Now, Zach Ertz, I thought would have been gone by now. I thought that Zach Ertz was done with the Philadelphia Eagles. If you guys watched that game at the end of the season for the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Ertz, Carson Wentz, they're sitting there, they're like fucking crying on the sideline because they know their time is finished. Capiche? It's over for them as Philadelphia Eagles, but Zach Ertz still hasn't been moved. Now, again, I'm still under the assumption that Zach Ertz will get moved, because if he's not, then Dallas Goedert's potential to break out is very limited. Last year, going into the 2020 season, I talked about how I liked Dallas Goedert as a late round flyer at the tight end position, because Zach Ertz was really losing that pizzazz that he had early on. in his NFL career, he was getting older, and it just seemed like he wasn't going to be able to keep up, which was true, but they're still going to use him, right? Because they still pay him the money. He's still the tight end one on the team, so he was still getting usage. But Dallas Goedert really was evolving into the guy in this offense. Last year, Goedert played in 11 games, finishing as tight end 20 in PPR, as well as in half PPR. Same thing goes with standard, averaging 10.6 PPR points per game, 8.5 half PPR points per game, and 6.4 standard points per game. Meaning, from a points per game perspective, he was tight end 9 in PPR, tied with Mike Licky Amagasicki, tight end number 10 in half PPR, and tight end number 13 in standard. Now, I understand there are going to be critiques for Dallas Goedert because his quarterback is Jalen Hurts, and frankly, Jalen Hurts is going to probably run the ball a shit ton and not be throwing as much in the red zone, which would be where Dallas Goedert will dominate, but I still think Dallas Goedert will still be getting enough receiving just targets, I should say, in this offense that he will be solid. He had 65 targets last year, 46 receptions, 524 receiving yards, and 3 total touchdowns, and that was with dismay at the quarterback position, with Wentz, with Jalen Hurts. It was basically up and down. It's in and it's out, but at the end of the day, Dallas Goedert still showed a lot of potential, just like he's shown in the past, ever since he's been drafted in the NFL in 2018 in the second round. 26 years old now, Dallas Goedert is looking to have that big season. He needs the big season so he can get paid. He can get those big bucks as the Philadelphia Eagles tight end of the future, and I believe that is exactly what he will be. Right now, I have him listed as my tight end number 6. Now, again, we're assuming that Zach Ertz ends up getting traded, and that opens the door wide open for Dallas Goedert. To me, it's pretty simple with Dallas Goedert. We've seen the value in the past. We've seen how he finished on a points per game basis. Now, we just need to see him do it for a whole season with Jalen Hurts, and you'll be very happy with your selection of Dallas Goedert because he's going not really as a top 5, top 6 option, and I have him ranked as the tight end number 6. Now, we just gotta hope that Zach Ertz gets booted to Indianapolis to go play with his friend Carson Wentz. So let me know down below what you guys thought about Burrow, Cam Akers, Jerry Jeudy, and Dallas Goedert. Let me know if you think I'm off on some of these guys, or maybe you prefer a different breakout at each position. Let me know. I love you guys all so much. Happy Sunday. It's almost the start of the week. No Sunday scaries today, though, because we're going to have a great rest of our week. I love you guys. Make sure that you stay safe. Happy Sunday, and I'll see you beautiful bastards on Monday tomorrow. Love you guys all again. Stay safe. As always, good boy.